I guess to start this video, everybody wants to hear what we were wrong about. We've never been wrong about the Broncos. The Broncos are who they are, and they're winning the stinker bowls. What I am going to apologize to people is that for 2 seasons the Broncos won 5-11, and I was trying to tell my co-hosts here, Bubble Man and particularly Bucket Man, that there's a fine line between these, Broncos 5-11 and the rest of the NFL. That I didn't trust any of these teams in the NFL, and I'm apologizing because I should have stuck to that. I should have been saying, nope, I don't trust a lot of these teams in the NFL. And if I'm guilty, I can only be accounting for myself, is being lured away from that I believed, that, when I said that the rest of the NFL is not very far behind at 5-11. And we had conversations that I said, if the Broncos do lose the rest of their games, including the Cleveland game, let's just put them in the playoffs, because that's what the NFL wants. They want the storyline. That's all the NFL cares about anymore. You've got, I don't know, the celebrity wives, girlfriends. That's more important now. Luring in 12-year-old girls is what the NFL, that's what it comes down to. I'm not going to apologize because I know what the Broncos are. Even during their winning streak, they're one team that doesn't make mistakes and is hitting on all cylinders away from another 70-point debacle. That's who the Denver Broncos really are. I mean, but I can't sit here and blame the Denver Broncos for the faults of other teams. I mean, if the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, Minnesota, and the Cleveland Browns want to do dumb things, that's certainly not on the Broncos. And in my opinion, the Broncos should have won all those games. They did, and they should have. There's a point of contention with the refereeing favoring the Broncos to a degree, and I think that right now Twitter's blowing up because of all the holding the Broncos, the egregious holding they were getting away with, that's for sure. I think the last clean game a team played against the Broncos was Green Bay. And the only reason, in my opinion, that Green Bay lost the game, I mean, we won't know, was a bogus flinchy call and a bogus holding call that we couldn't see on tape. We went and showed the tape. You can go back and look. Nobody could see it. But it was called, so they got 15 yards put on them that they couldn't overcome. But, if they were allowed to keep, they got into, were marching on the defense without any problem. I'm assuming they would have, but we don't know. But because they weren't allowed to, it seemed like to win that game. They were on the verge of winning it, last-minute drive, but we'll never know. That wasn't allowed to happen, apparently. But the games after that, Kansas City, we did film on that, and Bills, they all self-destructed, and that's on them. They should lose the game. And the way I look at it, if you put Kansas City and the Broncos in a wild card situation, I don't see, I'm not going to bet the farm on Kansas City that they're not going to fuck up again. But this is the thing. We have Bronco fans that come to the channel and whine. They sit here and whine because we're critical of what we're seeing. We're critical of the Broncos. I was critical of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Showed all the video and the tape on that, all 22. Never heard anything from Kansas City because they knew what was going on. Matter of fact, a Bronco fan was sitting there, defending the virtues of Mahomes. But the Kansas City Chief fans knew that Mahomes was playing like garbage. They weren't going to defend that. Only a Bronco fan, go figure. Same with the Bills. You didn't have any Bills fans come when we showed all the screw-ups by the Bills. They didn't say how wrong we were. Because they knew what was going on. They were criticizing it themselves. Bronco fans can't take criticism. That's why they come on this channel and they whine all the time. It is what they want. They want to start the world of make-believe. I mean, Garrett Holt's doing a chokehold, and their fans, oh, no, that ain't holding. But by God, if the Bills, for instance, their right tackle was getting away with holding the whole game. We pointed that out. But Bronco fans will call the same hold, oh, my God, look, they were holding. And they were. That's the problem. It's really an NFL problem. league-wide is just getting away with all this holding. And I don't believe that it makes the game any better. I don't agree with former players saying, yeah, the fans want to have the refs throw flags. Well, yeah, but what happens I want to see a quality game. We're not throwing flags for the sake of throwing flags. I don't want to see the offensive line position be degraded so far that nobody even knows what holding is anymore. They just let him get away with it across the board. Although I was watching Cleveland, I didn't see them at all doing what the Broncos were doing. I did the Bills, but I didn't see the Cleveland do that. But what happens is it degrades the game. I want the Broncos to have a dominant line. And the problem with all this winning is they need major changes on defense, and they need and the fans, oh no, yes, the teams are self-destructing. And Cleveland was, a prime example. I'm going to get into that. But then you have the offensive line that needs to be revamped. Oh no, well I guess you don't if the refs are just going to let everybody hold. It just is right now. The NFL just has a poor quality product, and it's finally caught up to the Broncos. And give the Broncos credit because they haven't been coughing up the ball yet, choking it up and stuff like that. But for the last the Broncos overall that's never really been their problem. Sure, they've had a game or two in the span of like 2 or 3 years that they have a game where they cough it up or something, but. And I guess you could say some of these teams are just happen to have it right when it happens to happen during the Bronco game, but you can see that a lot of it is self-inflicted. But the Bronco fans don't want to see that; they want to beat their chests, and that's fine. Fans can do what fans do, And I think people just understand that. But we try to break it down and really show what's going on. And again, it's just the ineptitude of the NFL has finally caught up to the Broncos. I just don't think these last 4 wins have been toilet bowls. I do not believe that if the Bills, Minnesota, KC, if they're clicking on all cylinders, I do not believe this Denver Bronco team is guaranteed to win a game. I think in the case of the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, they are going to get destroyed. But it takes a complete meltdown by these teams for the Broncos to even, come close to beating them. Plus 12 people on the field. Bogus pass interference calls and stuff like this that, they need. Believe me, that's the problem with the Broncos winning right now is they need all the help they can get. That's what's really this is all about. All right, let's just get into this film. I wouldn't call it a study, but it's going to be, because I don't have the time and I don't think I can handle the punishment of having to go through this entire game. But this is going to be more of a bullet point on just about how bad this game is, how bad the NFL has gotten, and the Broncos cashing in on all of it. Plus, I'm going to show these referees. The Broncos are sitting here crying a river right now because Twitter blew up and people are posting all the holding. There was a lot of holding by the Broncos. The Cleveland Browns were beside them, so they should be pissed off. I've been trying to find it on Cleveland's side. I don't see anything even remotely as bad. We're talking chokehold, WWF stuff, takedowns. And I just don't want my offensive line having to rely on the refs not calling flags. And I want to have a quality offensive line. I'd like to have like the old San Francisco 49er offensive line that the Joe Montana had. It just was an iron curtain to themselves, and then be able to pound my chest and say, yeah, you can't say that these guys are holding. They're just fucking awesome. And but we don't get awesome in the NFL. So without further ado, let's just get into this. When this first play opened up and Cleveland ran it, I just thought to myself, oh boy, here we go. Cleveland has no intention of really doing anything serious in this game. I mean, the first play, it just makes no sense at all. Fact is, if you're going to run this play, okay, if you're going to run it, at least could you set up some blocking for this guy? We got a wide receiver here just kind of being a spectator. There was no effort by the coaching staff to help this guy out in any kind of blocking. And just right off the bat, why don't you have a good running back core? I mean, it's good. It's pretty good. You got a good enough. You got a pretty good offensive line in the run game. Broncos have been susceptible in the run game, and make them put 8 in the box. So guess what? You can hit them over the top. This is pretty basic stuff, but coaching has gotten so bad in the NFL. I've seen high school better than this. I mean, this is really no excuse. I'm not giving Cleveland any excuses either. Cleveland earned their loss. Don't get me wrong; they earned the loss. They just didn't need it. I don't think they needed any more help than they were getting. And this play just clearly shows that. And here I'm going to include this little gem. This is given to me by Bubble Man. I'm going to include this. It's about how the NFL has gone down the tubes with these quarterbacks becoming running backs, and then you can't touch them. So you can watch this too, just to get a feel about how the NFL has just gone really down the tubes and soft.
I want you to watch these tackles, all right? I want you to watch these fucking horrible tackles. And wonder why the NFL has become unwatchable, unbearable, and unsafe. Number one, let's watch this. Let's look at the great tackling. All right there. Let's wrap him up. But guess what? They're trying to take the hip tackle out. So this guy cannot grab him by the waist to tackle him because he'll get fined or suspended, right? Ejected. Who knows? All right. Horrible tackle. That one right there, second tackle, is a mockery because guess what? Subconsciously, he's a quarterback, so in his mind, he doesn't want to hurt him. Number one, doesn't want to get a foul, a penalty, a fine. And guess what? It's a push tackle. So I can't hit the quarterback high. I can't hit him low. So guess what? I'll pull the finger cartilage out of my fingers trying to grab his jersey. But guess what? It's a horse collar if I grab high. And if I go low, guess what? It's a hip roll tackle, which is going to be banned. So result is quarterback gets a free reign, gets to walk in the end zone. Guess what? Offense is still the worst it's ever been in NFL history with all the defensive rule changes. Offenses are still horrific. Blows my fucking mind.
All right, let's get into bad play number 2. I mean, I can't go through every one of these Cleveland lame duck plays. A little note to quarterback. In order for this play to work, if you want to throw to the running back in the flat, and I can understand doing it because you have Singleton just standing here. He should be all over this. But the play is designed that the receivers are supposed to take the corner and the safety down the field. But the quarterback doesn't sell it because before the receivers clear and obviously the safety and corner pursue the receivers, the quarterback turns his head to the Cox's arm. Locke sees that, and he doesn't follow his guy. Of course not. And he stops this run to the flat. I don't understand what Singleton's doing. He's just sitting there. Now, if Locke goes, this could be a substantial gain, and it's probably what Cleveland saw on the film. Because these linebackers, and Bowman has said it over and over again, just they don't go to the action. They wait for the action to come to them. Just horrible, to say the least. But because this quarterback doesn't sell this play, he leaves his running back out here high and dry. But even if he didn't have to do that, there's really no pass rush. He could have waited, and number, I think it's 19 here, the receiver, is right in the middle of the field. Now, he's going to get at least a few yards, maybe 5, out of the play. And you don't have to hope that all this complication takes care of itself. You got 19 right here. He's probably going to pick up what this guy really normally should have picked up anyway. But Locke doesn't fall for it. Why should he? Because the quarterback didn't actually sell it. The quarterback not only didn't sell the passing that he was going to throw to the receivers, he could have hit 19 in the middle, didn't even bother to scan the field, and that could have been something else he could have done. The running back here really should be the safety valve anyway. The point of this is that just playing some base football, the Browns would have had a 3rd and 3, a 3rd and 4, probably a 3rd and 3 because he's 6 yards past the line of scrimmage. If he falls over, I mean, it's another yard. So instead of having 3rd and 3, they're at, I don't know, what is it, 3rd and 9, just based off of just bad quarterback play. And the fact I don't think the second receiver actually even cleared out Locke. He just turns around. So, oof. I think this is another good play to show because it's 3rd and 8. It could have been 3rd and 4. It could have been 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4. But again, the backup quarterback doesn't understand fundamentals. And this is a good example of that. Your edge rushing is only as good as the quarterback you're playing against if you have no interior pass rush. But this quarterback has no clue about stepping up into the pocket, and this was a problem for him the entire game. He clearly has a pocket. He has a great pocket here to step up. Yes, Jonathan Cooper's coming in, but he's, to the outside. The pocket is clean to step up into. A competent quarterback would do that, step into the pocket. And if you look right here, he's got a receiver becoming wide open. I mean, wide open. Surtain is 5 yards off, and this is right when the ball should be thrown. This is a first down play on this so-called great defense. And this would have been, again, if you had a competent quarterback, this would have been a first down play. And I'm just saying this to all these fans that want to sit there and rail about how great the defense is. It's only as good as the competition. Had you had a competent quarterback, because we've seen it time and time again, you step up into the pocket and they make these throws. It's right there in the middle of the field. Surtain is 5 yards off. It's going to, when this ball gets, this guy should be, if it's a competent quarterback, he definitely can catch this in stride. It's going to be a 10 or more yard play. And really, mostly because the Broncos refuse to have elite interior pass rushers, taking away that pocket. But he clearly has a pocket here. And I just wanted to show this because this was going on throughout the game. And I saw this series by the Cleveland Browns. And I thought for sure that the Broncos would be able to basically put this game away by the second quarter, just based off of these 3 plays. They definitely have problems just running base offenses on this team. Bucket Man is not going to like this. But the Cleveland Brown receiver on the Broncos' first drive is not only clear pass interference, technically it's twice. They don't flag him on the first one. They technically could. It's egregious corner work. And Bucket Man is great with lines. He's a stickler for the way offensive and defensive lines play. Linebackers, obviously. But corners is really my specialty. And this is the anti-corner, what I call the anti-corner the NFL has cranked out. And I want to say, I think colleges and high school are cranking this garbage out too. But back in the day, I may be old, but I was young once. And I will tell you, I've been with high school kids who could play corner better than this guy. 10 times better. This guy, if you want to teach a guy how not to play corner, this is it. But before I get into that, I'm just going to say that the Denver Broncos did Bucket Man, Chop Liver, and Bubble Man football. They did a lot of heavy run sets. I was going to show the fact they can't run a screenplay to save their life. So on this particular play here with the pass interference, we're going to get into this. Right off the bat, I like where the corner is placed. He's exactly where he should be. You don't want the receiver to go inside, but you should start backpedaling. The reason you do these backpedal drills, backpedal turn, as a corner, your footwork is just as important as a quarterback. Just as important. And you got to have just the proper footwork. You should be more worried about your footwork than touching a goddamn receiver. Really. Backpedal turn. And I mean, crank that turn too. Now you're running. It's just like, you're going in that motion, turn, and now you're running stride for stride. You're looking at the wide receiver. He's looking back. Oh, he's spotting the ball. That's my cue. I'm looking back right when he does that. I'm looking back too because I know that ball's coming. I don't have to like spot it. I just need to look in his direction where he's looking, and you know where the quarterback is, right? For the most part, even if they're scrambling, that ball's got to get to you. So you just wait for it. You just look up, and it'll finally show itself. It's just you get used to it when you've done it so much. You just get used to turning your head. You get used to going for the ball. It's like I just felt like again like I was the receiver out there. I never looked at myself as a defender or a corner. It's like you're going to run this go route, okay? Looks like it's time I get to be a receiver now. Hip hip hooray! Never allow a receiver to get ahead of you. That's cardinal sin number one. Like I said, backpedal and then turn your hips quick. He's kind of sluggish on his hips. I don't like that. He gets running way too late. Cortland Sutton already is a step ahead of him. Rule number one, start backpedaling, backpedaling, backpedaling. For you coaches out there that don't do the backpedal, you don't know if he's going to do a crosser. Look at this corner's feet and look at his hips. If Cortland Sutton, if this play was a crosser, his feet, his hips are exactly the opposite way they need to be. He's screwed. The reason you do footwork as a corner is that you do backpedaling as a corner is that your footwork is precise. So if he decides to do that crosser, your footwork is ready to go and you're ready to pounce. You look at that his hips, his footwork, he is no way. If Cortland if this happened to be a crosser, man, this is going to be a big play because he's already, just by default, has his corner turned around, and the crosser hasn't even happened yet. So you backpedal. When you backpedal, you absolutely do not look at the receiver. You have no reason to look at the receiver. Why do you, Coach, why would you look at the receiver? Ooh, I know where he is. I don't need to look at him. I have to keep my eyes on the quarterback at this point and see if he's going to throw. I got to see if he's going to throw it. I got to see because he could run that crosser, I got to be able to pounce. In this case, it's going to, and again, okay, this case, it's going to be a go route. That doesn't matter. You say, well, he's running a go route. I don't want him to backpedal because you people haven't drilled. You should be able to turn your hips fast, and you're already going the direction you're going to be going forward in. You should be running stride with that receiver. Turn your hips, turn your hips, turn your hips. This guy's starting off from basically a stop position. That's why you got to backpedal. He lets Cortland Sutton slightly get ahead of him, which I don't like, but you don't need to touch. If you're touching a wide receiver, you don't know anything about this sport. You don't know anything about this position. There's no reason to touch. I don't know what this is about touchy-feely. It's evolved into that. That should be the last thing you want to do. What you want to touchy-feely is the ball. And what I like to do is, back in the days, I like to run beside them. That way they can't, cross on me, especially if they drift. But you don't need to look at the quarterback now. As soon as you turn your hips, you're looking at the receiver and you're looking for him to spot the ball. I can tell just from my own experience when this ball is definitely coming. Cortland Sutton, he spots the ball. Right there, the corner has to turn around at this time. Immediately turn around. And you're trying to intercept the ball or bat the ball down. That's your number one goal. But as you see, he doesn't turn. He's the cardinal sin. Why are you not turning? Your head should be turning as you're running. You also should be spotting the ball. His head should have already been turned around because, you're an eligible receiver as well. He's got good leverage on the guy. He's where he's supposed to be. But dude, you got to turn your head around. Somebody's got to train these people properly. You got to turn your head around. There he is. He's grabbing Cortland Sutton's jersey. He hasn't looked back yet. Cardinals, this is totally a cardinal sin. Totally a cardinal sin. That is pass interference. Flag him. Bench him. Start teaching these guys how to actually play this position. It should come natural to you. Touching should be so unnatural. It should be very unnatural to touch players. You're not there to get touchy-feely if you're a corner. You're there to touch the ball. You're there in your mind as a corner, you got to think of yourself as a receiver. You are a receiver out there. All I have to do is turn my head. But they don't coach that. Man, we had to do backpedal, turn, backpedal, turn, backpedal, turn, backpedal, turn. So redundant, but it helps build that, I don't know what you call it, but muscle memory. It helps you build muscle memory. Backpedal, turn, backpedal, turn, backpedal, turn. And then you're looking at the wide receiver, and then you can see when you can see, if it's coming to them or not. Because immediately, like you saw here, Cortland's trying to spot the ball. He's locating the ball. That just immediately the ball's on its way. And that's your cue to just turn around. That's all you got to do is just turn around. And it's like, hey, the quarterback's throwing to me. All right, I'm sorry that I've talked about this a lot, but corner work has just gone down the tubes. And I'm not just picking on this guy here. You just see this shit all the time. And it's inexcusable. It just is. I just wanted to mention, like I said in the beginning of all this, that there was 2 grabs. There were 2 pass interference on the same guy at the same play. The flag was thrown for the first grab because this is where they spot the ball on the next play. So 2 definite pass interference calls that didn't need to be. You don't need to be touching people. Just knock it off with that. Coaches out there coaching this shit. Ugh. God, nobody knows what this fucking position is, how it's supposed to actually be played. Stop touching receivers. If you're going to touch anything, touch the goddamn ball coming in. That's how the position is properly played. God, football has just gone down the tubes. It's like all this holding going on. We'll get into that now. This was a toilet bowl game. I've been railing on the Cleveland Browns. Now I'm going to go into the referees. There's plenty of crap to go around for everybody. And then we're going to get into the Broncos in just a minute, and they're garbage. This is just poor football. So on this play, it's a running play that goes nowhere by the Denver Broncos, okay? Cleveland does a decent job in shutting it down. The problem is the referees have to start playing this game, and if you want to squash all the talk that was going on that the refs were in the Broncos' pocket, you can't be throwing flags like this. And, drunk Bronco fans, well, the guy will be 10 yards down the field and they'll swear up and down it was still offsides. Well, you can clearly see that 91's up at the top here, but the defensive end at the very bottom here, if you see him, he's actually a little bit further ahead than 91. 91 is in no way lined up in the neutral zone. I'm just saying, if you want people not to be saying, well, obviously they want the Broncos to get in the playoffs, and, I just showed you that was a legitimate pass interference call. So I'm not here taking sides. I'm just calling it like it is. There's no reason that this call should have happened. Right now, it should be, it should be 2nd and 9. It shouldn't be 2nd and 5. It's just a bogus call, and this was going on all day. And yes, people had every right to call it out. It is what it is. It's the referees getting involved in this game when they had no business doing that. This flag should have never been thrown. Period. End of story. And again, if you don't want people to say the referees are in the pocket of the Walmart generals, that Walmart general money isn't paying for all this stuff, then stop doing this stuff. In this play, Cushenberry gets owned, and he was getting owned the whole game. And that brings up another point of contention. Back in the day, there was no PFF, and I believe, this is my opinion, based off of what former players are saying about how crap their system is, their rating system is. We had former players, go to the Super Bowl and say, I was having a lights-out year, and they gave me a shitty rating. Yeah, because, in my opinion, you didn't pay them. And then we live in this PFF world, and it's degrading the game. This is calling PFF out for what they are, a PR company. In my opinion, who gets money from players and organizations to overhype or to give them fake ratings. Because Cushenberry has been a problem ever since he's been with the Broncos as far as quality is concerned. And this isn't about, as a Bronco fan, I don't want the guy to get a rating. How about we actually bring somebody in that can play the position strong and be an actual all-pro that his peers vote into the Pro Bowl? Because he's, the real deal, and not this artificial crap that we're seeing. But in this play, you can see that Cushenberry's getting owned, and he, again, was going on all game. And this is just egregious holding. He's got him in a bear hug. He's behind him. The video still clearly shows this. The video clearly shows this. If you want people to stop saying the Broncos are in the in the referee's pockets, called throw the flag. You threw it, rightly so, against the Cleveland corner. Yeah. You need to do it here, too. This needs to be called out. Right now, what really should be going on this game, it should be 3rd and 20 for the Denver Broncos. Or 3rd and 19 anyway, maybe 3rd and 19, because they didn't get anywhere on the run play. They got a bogus defensive player offsides. Now they get a no call, okay, for Lori Kirschenberry as bear hug that should have been called. And you can see the ref clearly looking at it. Again, if you want to quiet the voices down, stop doing this stuff. So the Broncos should be faced right on the next play with the 3rd and 19. It just is what it should be. I knew that the Denver Broncos offensive line was bad and that they obviously need all the help they can get. I just didn't realize it was this bad. Whew. Before I get into that, just get people caught up here. What should have been a 3rd and 19 turns out to be a bad snap exchange between Cushenberry and Russell Wilson. I'm not sure who was to blame. If I was to guess, I'd say Russell Wilson. The fact that that's rare, they don't have a chronic issue with that. You know, it happens. It should have been 4th and 19, and either they try for a long field goal or, they punt it. That's what should have happened in this toilet bowl game. But on the next play here, it's going to be a completed pass to Cortland Sutton by Russell Wilson. And I just want to mention something before I get into this offensive line menagerie. If you listen to our detractors, they'll tell you how much we hate the Denver Broncos, but the same people who say how much we hate the Denver Broncos were giving us a hard time for Russell Wilson when we said that we should, this is during the losing stretch, we said that the Broncos need to keep Russell Wilson. We got attacked for that. And the same people that attacked us for that are saying how much we hate the Denver Broncos. We were the only ones saying they should keep Russell Wilson. I just want to bring that up. Again, we was giving Russell Wilson credit even during the bad games because he stopped doing what he was doing, what all the content creators wanted. They wanted him to scramble out of the pocket, run around. And we said, no, work the pocket. And one thing we've given Russell Wilson, we were the only ones at the time. We've given Russell Wilson to stick to what we said he needs to stick to. We watched the film. We put film out the day, I did anyway, when the day Russell Wilson was hired. He's got to stick in the pocket. And he does a great job not scrambling, sticking with it, and he hits Cortland Sutton. That's the difference between why Russell Wilson's been better. Sean Payton's got him settled down, and Sean Payton is not listening to the front office to have him scramble around and trying to throw bombs all over the place. They're running the ball and trying to set up, they're running the ball, short passes, set up the longer throws. But with that said, and giving Russell Wilson an accolade here, this is the grim reality. This should have been I don't even know if you go to a personal foul. It's not just holding, it's almost borderline personal foul. Garrett Bowles on this play not only holds this guy in a chokehold, he's literally bending his neck down, bending his neck backwards. And now, granted, it's brief, but if you can see in the photo here, his arm is covering up the guy's name on the back, and he's literally kinking the guy's neck back. How can you not call this? And then Twitter blew up after the game about all the holding. I got personal texts saying, what's going on with all the holding? Well, obviously, the Broncos' offensive line needs all the help it can get. Now, I didn't think the referees needed to help the Broncos out to beat the Cleveland, because if we go through this tape, we can show you where Cleveland just did the most boneheaded things, just giving this game away. I don't think they needed to have this kind of help from the ref, personally. I think they could have beat the Cleveland Browns just on merit, even getting these holding penalties. But this is just, it's no wonder Cleveland blew a gasket on this stuff. No wonder Twitter blew up with everybody posting all these different holds that the offensive line. This is bad stuff. Bad football. Just a bad product. All right, this just continues. And, I was just talking to Bucket Man saying that it'd be great if we could watch these films and talk about the awesome plays. But there's so much bad. This next problem that we see was brought up by fans around the league, during the game and Cleveland fans who rightfully complained about this. They had every right to. Here we see minors, and the thing is this is why this is not good. Because if you were to say to me that this is stuff's going on league-wide, I would probably have to agree with you, and that's the problem. Quentin Miners is a really good up-and-coming player, but he's never going to develop into that good player if he's allowed to do slop. This is slop football. This isn't how you block. This isn't proper football. This is just slop. It's bad football. And you have Miners reaching out and grabbing number, I don't know, 44, I think it is, a linebacker coming in. He's going to make the hit. He's hitting the hole, going to make this hit. Miners grabs him. This isn't a block. Grabbing is not a block. Grabbing him, then bear hugging him, and then he spins him and takes him down, like this is wrestling. And it's poor. It's a poor product. This isn't the game of football. It's wrestling, if you like wrestling, but it's not football. This again should have been called. You have to start wondering if the NFL is telling the refs to turn a blind eye. This is the kind of stuff that makes people talk. These holding calls blew up on Twitter, and there was a bunch of them, a bunch of different ones. And this one was brought up during the game. So after the Broncos get away with some stuff and score a touchdown, Cleveland now has to get into the act. So the Browns are playing pretty clean football. They're driving down, really with not very much problem at all. And then this happens. It's like when you watch these, all 22s, and you're watching and you see some good things. And then when you see something like this, basically the same kind of shit we saw with the Broncos, and it doesn't get called, you're just wondering what the fuck's going on out there. And it's like, is this a football game or is this a wrestling competition? We have the great Cleveland takedown here, got 77, grabbing the defensive interior lineman and, bear hugging him. The lineman falls down, but because the offensive lineman is bear hugging him, he just goes down with him in a takedown. It's no flag, of course. You just, you just have to ask yourself, is it for real? It's just so bad. I didn't even see this stuff in high school. As a disclaimer, yes, I'm going to show you Cleveland, but they're very few and far between. When the Broncos, this is the problem. They have, not only are they doing this constantly, they'll have, instead of one player doing it, they'll have three players in this game with egregious holding. It's chronic with the Denver Broncos. With the Broncos, the amount of just bad offensive line play, it's off the Richter scale, man. Just, if you watch this game, you just got to scratch your head, everything Cleveland does. Note to Cleveland Browns, you're not as good as you think you are. You lost your main quarterback. You need to start playing base football, but that's what a good head coach would do. I think this head coach is probably going to be a candidate to get fired down the road, because this Cleveland Brown team came with all these tricks up their sleeve that they can't even remotely run, and this is one of them here. So we get the tight end to play quarterback. Why is anybody's guess. I guess because we think we're smarter than we are. This is a clear-cut example of that. The exchange is screwed up. It looks to me that maybe it's the tight end. Big surprise, right? And it's a gift. This is just what you call a pure gift to the Denver Broncos, something that we're all getting familiar with. Oh, no, it's the defense. The defense didn't cause. The Cleveland went out of their way to fucking gift this to the Denver Broncos. And it's just stupid, because up to this point, I thought they were throwing it a little bit more than they needed to, but they were throwing with success. They were marching down the field with no problem. Then they decided to get stupid. You wonder, the funny thing is these head coaches get fired, and then somebody picks these dumbasses up somewhere else. If you had a good head coach, you think, and no head coach would do this. You're on your backup quarterback. You got to run base football. He's actually playing decent at this time. He's completing passes. I think you should run the ball a little bit more, kind of help him out a little bit. But Broncos, they did try to run to the edge, and Broncos did a pretty good job of stopping it. They can't seem to stop the pass, but that's par for the course too. But this is just, you're down a touchdown. You're not up, you're not up or, 3-2-1. You're down a touchdown. You're not up, 2 touchdowns or whatever. So if this backfires on you, and to think that, how do these guys get these coaching jobs? It's just, you just got to scratch your head. I don't know. This was just such a bad game because Cleveland is just doing this kind of shit throughout the game, and they had no intentions of winning this game as far as I'm concerned. It's just that with the stupidity that the coaching staff decided they were going to do coming into Mile High. Just when you give Russell Wilson credit, stepping up in the pocket, what you say he needs to do, no, we want him to scramble around like a chicken with his head cut off. Well, here's a clear-cut example why you don't want him to do this. You're paying him $250 million, which is more than he should be getting paid, really. He's a serviceable quarterback, playing decent football, not $250 million worth. And a play or two doesn't, really justify that. But here, again, Russell Wilson gets in his old habits. The offensive line does a pretty good job. They're not, choke holding people. And there's a pocket here for him to step up. And right when he steps up, I think this may be Judy. I could be wrong. I'd have to go back to the broadcast to find out who exactly was there. I can't tell the number, but I think it may be Judy. The corner, for whatever the reason, just lets Judy go past him, just gives up on, covering him. At this time, Russell Wilson has turned his body and is on the run. Again, I know the content creators want that. And I want to say something else is that Cleveland, again, a good team's going to have a spy. And Cleveland hasn't, I guess they didn't watch tape. You put a spy on Russell Wilson. And what I say this is that a good team is not going to stop covering the receiver. Okay? And they're going to put a spy there. So he does have some guys out in the flat if all else fails. But, this is why you don't turn your back on, you run away from the pocket. You stay in the pocket, because if he worked the pocket, he probably would have had a touchdown here. This guy is just getting wide open because the corner has left, has abandoned his guy. And I don't really understand the logic of that. But this is the Browns, by the way. And a good team wouldn't do that. So anyway, after praising Russell Wilson, he gets kind of back in these old ways of his. Because guess what? They didn't put a spy, so it's appealing to him to run. But he left a touchdown, in my opinion, a touchdown on the field right there. Okay. Now, again, to show you just how bad this game continues to be, the Broncos, this time it's Cleveland that causes the fumble, not the Broncos just gifting it to them. But again, if you are playing a decent team, you can't afford this kind of stuff. And again, it's on a scramble. Cleveland gets the ball. And the Broncos actually has, up to this point, done a pretty decent job stopping Cleveland's run. Cleveland's pass, not so much. Nick Burrito on this drive gets an unblocked to the quarterback hurry that he can add to his highlight reel of getting to the quarterback unblocked. Okay, that's the only time I ever see Nick Burrito. At least, obviously, that's what the film shows. So it's third down. And I would be remiss to get after Cleveland's corner and not get on the Broncos' corner. This is really egregious. And the Cleveland bench rightfully exploded. If you just got your flag out ready to throw pass interference, rightfully so, when corners are touchy, feely, there's no excuse for that, period. End of story. But this is egregious. And this, you can clearly see Patrick Surtain leaning on top. He's actually leaning his body. He's pancaking the receiver before the ball gets here. That should have been an easy call. They all saw it. And it should be Cleveland's ball as a first down at that marker. So I don't want to hear about whiny fans that, the rest of the league saw the refs turning a blind eye to the Broncos over and over and over again. Bucket Man just did a film, and just early, it went through the whole game, early on, where there's multiple blockers holding, no call. And then I think Bucket Man has on film, they call holding when there is no holding on the Broncos. Makes no, I don't even get it. But this was a complete trash game. And I'm not saying throw flags for the sake of flags, but I want to see quality football. I want to see corners that they're running on these go routes. Corners are turning their heads at the right time, going for the ball. Turn your head, go for the ball. Turn your head, go for the ball. Turn your head, go for the ball. And I'm just going to tell Bucket Man that Cleveland Brown corner should have had his head turned 5 yards before he turned it. That would have been what a real corner would have done, because when Cortland Sutton targets that ball, okay, that's the cue for the corner to immediately turn his head and go for the ball. Turn your head, go for the ball. Turn your head, go for the ball. If you're going to touch anything, touch the ball. In this case with Surtain, he's just leaning on this. He's just like piggyback riding on this guy, really leaning on him. You can't do that. You can't. You just go for the ball. It's just bad all the way around. It's bad football, period. Well, we had a former NBA player comment on our board, and he was talking about how fans willy-nilly want flags thrown. And here's a clear-cut example of that.
Still has time, rolling to the right, still has time, now he's rolling, spins. Oh my goodness, this could be a disaster, but he's pointing direct to traffic, throws as he hit. That should be a late hit, that should be a hard hit. Where is it? Nothing? Yes! Thank you! Oh my God, he's injured.
I'm not really sure, but I think this Cleveland Brown fan is related to Preacher Man Sports. I'll have to check on that. What not only Cleveland Brown fans, but NFL fans in general should be pissed off at is the last play we saw. Surtain going through the receiver before the ball gets there, no flag. Phantom flags on the Cleveland Browns for jumping offsides that never happened. The Broncos' egregious holding throughout this game. I had people texting me who are fans around the league were laughing and said, what the hell's going on here? But the Browns also should get pissed off at the quarterback, their own quarterback play. This is the kind of fans that are ruining this game. Stop pussifying this game. Please stop pussifying this game. Okay, what do you want? Should we put flags on players now, especially quarterbacks, or put a skirt on a princess quarterback so the defender has to pull the skirt down, and then we can get into endless video review about whether he pulled the skirt down before the throw was made? No, this fan here is trying to pussify and ruin this is what's ruining the game of football already. This should have never been a flag. Of all the things, this should have never been a flag at all. They could have flagged the Bronco for a lot of things, but this ain't one of them. Maybe that was a little bit high, but it was a clean hit. And when I hear fans, I don't care who the fan, I don't care if this is Kansas City fans, you hit Mahomes too hard or whatever. You already can't hit the quarterback. It's just gone out of control. You have a lot of other gripes you could have, but, stop trying to ruin this game. All right, Cleveland Brown fan, how about this? Why don't you get upset when your quarterback hands the ball off to your running back's ankles? It's amazing they even got that fumble recovered. Horrible execution by the Cleveland Browns. Why don't you also get pissed off at your receivers dropping balls in the end zone? There's plenty you can get pissed off at, but this ain't one of them. I mean, you're going to destroy the dreams of a lot of kids out there, a lot of young men that have dreams of crushing a NFL quarterback. Here's something Cleveland Brown fans also should have been pissed off, and there should have been flags on the Cleveland Brown coaching staff for stupidity.
And the Browns hand it to Denver on a silver platter.
I mean, that's a situation where you've got to take advantage. Whatever you think about the call, I don't totally agree with the call. However, you got the call. Why are we getting so cute? This isn't the Harlem Globetrotters right here. I mean, what are we doing? Right downhill. The way you won games, you're 2-1 with PJ Walker as a starter. You got to go win this game. You got 15 minutes to put this game away, and you're going to flip the ball around to different players. I just don't understand it, man. And I especially with the rushing attack you have, The O-line coach, the way they're moving the ball, huge opportunity for the Broncos to create some separation in this.
I mean, you get the ball given. This was a gift to the Cleveland Browns. That hit was bogus. And the calling that hit, penalizing that hit is personal. Hitting the quarterback too hard. This is you're gifted. You've been gifted. You're almost at midfield. And what does your coaching staff do? Oh, we're going to do this end around. Why? Why would you do that? You have a chance. It's the fourth quarter. In my opinion, I don't think the Cleveland Browns should have been even in this game from an offensive standpoint, because you have their third string quarterback. That's this guy is the most clueless guy in the pocket. I've never seen a guy that unaware in the pocket for a long time. And, just turning a blind eye. And the Bronco fans, if the NFL decides they don't want the Broncos to win a game, they can just keep calling those holding calls. It goes both ways. So I'm saying we should get an offensive line that can really play. Anyway, this coaching staff for the Cleveland Browns, you must be begging to be fired. You shouldn't have been in this game, and now you're doing cutesy plays. That's all you did of the whole game, was doing cutesy plays. This head coach is a candidate for firing. Anyway, it's no wonder Bucket Man walked out at halftime. It just was sloppy crap football. I'm just waiting for the Broncos and the other team to play mistake-free football, unsloppy football, and then I could gauge. I already know where this team is. If this team was to play any, the Broncos of 2015, if it was to play the Ravens of the 2000s, the Patriots of the 2000s, the Broncos of the 90s, Dallas Cowboys of the 90s, San Francisco of the 80s, even the Broncos of the 70s, for God's sakes, this team would get crushed like an aluminum can under a semi truck. The quality of football across the board, what we're really guilty of is giving teams credit. The Broncos are on equal footing with teams for crapness. So, put the Broncos in the just put them in the Super Bowl. Just put them in the Super Bowl. I don't care if they lose the rest of the game. Put them in the Super Bowl, because I'm sure that whoever's in the Super Bowl in the NFC, Eagles, it doesn't matter, they're going to somehow choke it up. They're going to somehow not be what they have been for the most of the season. They're going to play like the Keystone Cops, and the Broncos can have a hollow Super Bowl victory, and not worry about, we don't need it. Nick Burrito's the greatest thing. The offensive line is it's so wonderful. They can believe all the lies they can believe, because the reason why we only have so many views is because we don't sit there and lie to people about what the Broncos are or what they aren't. We know exactly what they are. And we know that if they play some team that isn't making mistakes, clicking on all cylinders, you get a 70-point blowout. That's who this team is. This team needs all the help they can get, and they're getting it from every way but Sunday. Got to see what this team does when the other team isn't fucking up. Well, we've seen it. They lose the game, or they near lose the game. All right, I'm going to wrap it up with this. But to put this into much better perspective, much more clear perspective, and to give the Broncos a little bit of slack, is that the rest of the NFL, quite frankly, is just as bad or worse. The quality of the game has gone down the tubes. We have SI right now trying to claim that players are just overworked. Of course, they do that right at the holiday season, because a lot of people are talking about the quality of the game. They're talking about the things that we're talking about. When we break down film of the Broncos, we see this not a very good team. But what we also see, because we don't get to focus on other teams, is we happen to focus on these other teams during the Bronco games. And we find out they're just as bad. Stupid decisions by coaches, players not playing the game correctly, technique-wise. Just a poor quality product across the board. And that's where we are in today's NFL. It's just unfortunate.